seat over here as well. I am. I gotta say. There you go. Hey, Rob. Good job. There's your big man right there. Love it. We gotta have them. We gotta. All right. Do I have everything? Let's see. All right. We will call this, we'll convene to open session of the Roseville Joint Union High School District Board of Trustees for whatever today, June the 8th, 2021. You're all way too close to me now. I'm used to that distance. Welcome. Barbara, will you take the roll tonight?
Yes, it's 6:04 p.m. for start time. Mr. Constant.
I am here.
Ms. Hall. Here. Ms. Rhoda.
Here.
Scott Huber is absent this evening. Mr. Tagg.
Here. And 4 members present, 1 absent today, excused absence, Mr. Huber. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Hall, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for joining us here in person and online. There will be an opportunity to speak to the Board of Trustees on items not on the agenda, and an opportunity to speak to items on the agenda when that item comes up for consideration. Please identify yourself by name if you're an employee of the district, if you have students in the district, or if you are a community member. Also, please announce the subject in which you would like to address the trustees. If 1 to 9 members of the public wish to comment on agenda or non-agenda items, the timeline will be 3 minutes. If 10 or more members wish to comment, the timeline will be 90 seconds. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Item 3.3, report of action item from closed session. We had 2 items. Item 2.1, board took action to release probationary classified employee prior to the conclusion of their probationary period. And item 2.2, no reportable action. Item 3.4, communications. Mr. Borhan.
No communications this evening.
Okay. Item 3.5 is public comment for items not on the agenda. Does anyone wish to address the board on an item not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am. Please step up to the podium and state your name and your relationship to the district. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Michelle Peterson, and I have a senior at Oakmont High School. And my quick question is, I want to thank you for rescheduling the LCAP meeting, hearing from tonight to the 22nd. District website. I'm sorry, I know it's great, but they just don't. And it might be easier if it's in an email. They can just link on it and pull it up and review it. I thank you for the extra time as well to review it. It is a long document. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to item 3.6, which is committee reports. The board policy review committee, I think we already had that report.
Right.
Right.
We'll meet again next week, I think.
Okay, meeting next week. Any other committees? I don't think any other committees met. All right. And we will go to our consent agenda.
You want to,
Yeah, I'd like to ask that we make a correction to item 4.2, employment reassignments. There's a mistake on there about halfway down. On transfers, we need to scratch Jennifer Layton off of there. We've moved her to an action item, so we can make the approval with that one correction, 4.2.
Any questions, board members? Okay.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda with the
I have one
change.
more. Thank you, Ms. Rhoda. I have one more. I'd like to pull item 4.8, the school accountability report cards, as we discovered some items that need follow-up and editing, and so we'd like to bring those back with our LCAP so that they're better aligned at our next meeting on June 22nd.
Okay, board members, questions, comments on that? Anyone from the public wish to pull a consent item? Or board member? Seeing none, we have a motion by Ms. Sirota.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, same motion with the amendments on the, what was it,
4.2
2 and 4.8.
and pulling 4.8.
I'll second that.
And a second by Mr. Constant. Barbara, will you take the roll?
Trustee Constant,
Yes.
Heidi Hall,
Yes.
Julie Hirota.
Yes.
Andrew Tag.
Yes. Motion, consent agenda is approved 4-0. Thank you. We'll move on to information matters. And item 5.1, we wanted to recognize our outgoing superintendent, Mr. Borhan, who will be leaving us. This is his final board meeting that he'll be attending, and the end of a long career here at the Roseville Joint Union High School District. I know I had a few notes. Again, a reminder of just where Jess came from. He's been here since 1997. 95, okay. I got faulty information, but Jess started as an assistant principal at Granite Bay High School.
Wood Creek High School.
No, I have Granite Bay High School.
Wood Creek High School.
All right, Wood Creek High School. Then he went to Granite Bay High
Then I went
School.
to Granite Bay High School.
And then he became a principal at Wood Creek High School.
Correct.
And then moved into the district office in 2016, just shortly before Julie and I joined the board. I just wanted to say a couple words that being president these last year and a half now, working with Jess, always a pleasure to work with you, to communicate with you. Your style is, I like your style and how you've sort of persevered this last year and a half. It has been an unbelievable year to work through. And you took a position when we had a superintendent resign just as COVID was gearing up. And you've been unflappable throughout this process. And I personally will look back on this at some point fondly from the work and the time that we spent together.
Mhm.
And I know you worked hard and did the best possible job that you could do under all these circumstances to work with the board and the community and the teachers and to help get us through this process. And again, we were in a hybrid model in October and 5 days a week in January with a virtual academy set up. And that's not easy. Not many schools in California were able to do that. And so I just personally would like to thank you for the work that you did and the guidance that you provided. And again, what you've done throughout your career here at Roseville Joint Union High School District is just very admirable, and you should be proud of a lot of the things that you've accomplished here. And I know having knowing sort of the backstory of Wood Creek High School and what Jess was able to do at Wood Creek over his time there and transform the culture there was also a big success. So I don't know what you're going to, I joke with you about giving the COVID update at home to your wife on an ongoing basis, because I'm sure you're going to miss that report. And
Immensely.
you saw when we didn't
Yes.
have it one meeting and people missed it.
Yeah.
So, but I just, again, I've enjoyed our time together and thank you for your work. And we had a little small token of our appreciation to give to you, and you should open it.
Oh, I should open it.
And it's from the board, and
Oh, look at that.
what do
you face a crisis, you know who your true friends are. That's awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
We do a quick picture with Jeff. Pull my jacket off for this.
A picture of a picture?
Take your mask off.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
I wanted to bring up, and we're certainly open to have a couple people want to speak. We have a special guest here that I wanted to introduce. I thought it would be sort of apropos to invite him to Jess's last board meeting, and he's a former superintendent of this district and played a large role in the culture here as well. And between the two, who would have thought two educators from high school in Aptos would make such a difference in Roseville? And he certainly played a huge role and a big part in our opening of our new high school, West Park High School. May never have been built if it wasn't for this man. And thought it was a good way to complete the circle. And Mr. Ron Severson, thank you for coming today, and the floor is yours.
Jess was worried about what am I going to do when I'm retired. So I've been coaching him up a little bit. $5 Tuesday movies at all the local theaters. So my wife and I saw every movie that came out for a couple of years till COVID hit, and we're gonna get some ski time in, some other things. I wanted to just say a few words about Mr. Borhan, because he has left an indelible imprint on this school district and on this community. I have known Jess for 30 years. And he is, we've been friends, we've been colleagues, we've worked together, we've fought together, we've had all kinds of experiences. We didn't get off to a great start. When I was first met Jess, I was interviewing for the principalship at Aptos High School. And so I had a traditional interview, and then they had a mock site council meeting of all things. And so I had to pretend like I was running this meeting. Well, they had one designated person who was just the big jerk. I mean, they had his teacher who was loud, he's obnoxious, he's interrupting me, he's interrupting everybody. He's just a bully, just dominating the whole thing. And so this is like for half an hour that I'm dealing with this. And so I finally finished the meeting. I was just glad to get out of there. I'm driving home and I'm thinking, I hope I get this job, but if I don't, at least I don't have to work with that guy. I got the job, and I've been working with that guy for a long, long time. I just want to share three things that I think are three attributes of Jess's leadership that really make him remarkable. First, he is a teacher first, and he was a fabulous classroom teacher. I got to watch him teach AP Government at Aptos, and he loved his kids. He engaged them. He had high expectations for every single kid in his classroom. He was state of the art. He would go to AP conferences, whatever it took, so that he could do everything in his power to make a difference in their understanding. And it was interesting, it wasn't enough to be liked by kids. He really wanted them to be successful. So he measured his own success by their achievement. And he didn't feel good unless he got everybody to the finish line. Well, those attributes carried over, as you can imagine, to being a great principal, to being a great leader, to being a great superintendent. He has been a teacher first, and he really has understood what it's like to be in the trenches and how important that work is. And I think that's something that he really brings to the job that not everybody does. Second thing is he speaks the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And that's really important. Jim Collins in Good to Great said that great organizations have, I want to make sure I get this right. He says greater organizations are willing to examine their brutal reality. And you guys have seen some of that this year for sure. Not the reality that you're hoping for, not the reality you wish for, not the reality that other people have, but your actual brutal reality. And just does that. He asks the hard questions. He's always thinking. He's done that for me personally, and I really have appreciated that, Mr. Borhan. But he has definitely brought that to the table in the district as a great leader. And finally is his courage. He's got great integrity. He is a caring professional, but it's not enough. You can know all the right things to do, but when things get tough and when there's adversity staring you in the face or it's an unpopular move, it takes courage to keep moving forward. You touched on a little bit when Jess took over Wood Creek High School, it was struggling. I mean, academically, they were underperforming. The culture, there was some toxicity in parts of the culture. It was not a thriving campus. And he came in and he had to make hard decisions. He replaced some key leaders. He hired new people. He made policy decisions and all kinds of decisions that weren't wildly popular on the campus. One of the things he did is that, back to the teacher roots, he had a singular focus. He really believed that if we had great classroom instruction, everything else would take care of itself. And a decade later, Wood Creek was one of the top performing schools in Northern California and has one of the strongest cultures in the whole area. I really think that's a tribute to his courage and his legacy. And then over the last 18 months, Jess has stepped into just one of the craziest situations in history. I mean, there is no playbook. There was no manual to look at. How do you manage a pandemic? And I think he has showed, in my opinion, he has been heroic. I don't think anyone in the community will ever appreciate it. I don't know that everyone in the district will appreciate it. But he has fought the good fight to make sure that the district kept moving forward through the craziest time in the history. So with that, I just want to say, Jess, I wish you a great retirement. You deserve it. We'll see you at the movies. And first day of school, we're playing golf and having margaritas.
Thank you, Mr. Severson, and for taking the time to come out here and making this special occasion for Jess. And with that, do board members have anything they'd like to say at this point? Or
I have a few comments.
Sure.
I'll keep it short. So Jess, thank you so much for taking on the challenge of coming in and getting us through this far through COVID. And I am very, very pleased that you got our district as far as we've gotten. I think we've become markers in the state of California because of your leadership and cooperation with our community and our board and our district and our faculty. And so pleased that you got us there. And when the time came to have to make some decisions and having you assume this role, I knew you could do it because I saw how you had it handled the grading policy with silt, which was very interesting to see. I thought, if you can take on a grading policy with the entire district, COVID should be small potatoes. Right? So thank you for doing both of those. You've been creative and you got us there, got us where we are today. And good luck to you on your retirement. So
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, Jess, I'm probably the one who knows you the least here, having just joined the board a few months ago. And I think Andrew spoke well of all the challenges you faced. He forgot to mention me. But I know I've been a challenge. And at least I know that the last 6 months of your tenure will be memorable. So sorry for the pain that I've inflicted, but you've done a great job in addressing all my concerns and engaging and moving forward with the district. And I'm sure we'll keep getting to know each other, just not in the same roles, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I feel like I know you the least. You got to deal with Pete a lot more than me. So I feel like, I just barely got a chance to know you, but it's been great. And I just look around the rest of the state, as a parent first, I feel like for me, we've just been able to accomplish so much in this district because of you. So I genuinely really appreciate that and wish you happy golfing and movies and all the rest. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you.
that's awesome. Well, with that, I don't know if there was I was thinking that any of the principals might want to say something or speak on behalf of the principals. At this time, you may have already said your goodbyes. I was thinking of one principal in particular, if she's so inclined, and she worked with Jess for many years and now is a principal at West Park. So Becky Guzman.
Thank you. I wasn't actually planning on doing this because I got to share a lot of these remarks with Jess, but I think it's really appropriate to share them publicly as well. And a lot of what Ron shared is my heart too. But I met Jess when I was in 2003, when he first started as the principal at Wood Creek. And I agree with everything Ron said. He took that school from a place where I was a young, early 20 something teacher that didn't, we were a little lost academically. And 12 years later, we had excellent test scores, we had excellent leadership, we had a great culture, and he moved the school. He moved the school, and it took some time. Some of us went in right away to his office and said, let's do this and let's do this. And he said, let's learn together. And that's exactly the environment that he created. So I won't repeat everything that Ron shared, but I do want to say that Jess is an outstanding mentor. And so the opportunities that many of us had to learn from Jess were incredible. I think the things that I hold to my heart closely are that he helped me be confident in my decision making, because he was confident in his decision making even when the decisions were hard. He is excellent at conflict resolution, and not everybody can see that, but he approaches situations in ways that really value people. And he really helped a lot of us develop our own leadership identity and who we are. He mentored me through direct conversations, but quite honestly, watching him for the last, almost 20 years really changed me as a person and as a leader. I shared this with him when I was a young, headstrong assistant principal. He shared with me that being right was not always going to get me what I wanted. And so that I should probably adjust course sometimes. And I'm sure that my family and my colleagues appreciate that, Jess. So thank you for that. But it pushed me, watching him, to learn how to compromise, to listen more patiently, to practice humility. In our 18 years that we've worked together, I can point to countless conversations where he has guided me to improve and trusted me to lead. And so I will forever look at Jess as the #1 mentor in my career. I appreciate that I get to also call him a friend. And I know that I would not be where I am without him today. And I know many of us would say similar things. He's not only a leader that we wanted to follow, but one that I definitely wanted to emulate. And so I've shared a lot of that with him, but I think it's really important to know that he raised up a lot of us in a way that we hope that we can continue to lead the district from that space. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Becky. Well, yes.
Yeah, can I
yes,
say something?
Yes, please.
I just want to thank everyone for the kind words, and definitely greatly appreciated. And this district has been just outstanding. What a privilege to work in this district, to lead in this district. But I want to make something really clear, because I think it's hugely important, because I think it's going to be needed for Mr. Becker and the team. I didn't do anything this year, this last 15 months. We did what we did, and I'm going to include everyone in this room, everyone in this community, parents, students, staff, board, Mr. Constant. I love our conversations, believe it or not. One of my mentor shared with me a long time ago that iron sharpens iron, and there was a lot of sharpening this last 15 months. And I left many a board meeting understanding that the parents were doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing, which is being a parent and advocating for their students. That board members were doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing, is serving as board members and advocating in that capacity. Same with staff in the union. Was great this year, Jessica. I just really appreciate everything that the teaching staff and classified staff did this year. Principals, oh my goodness, I was telling them last week, do you remember that crazy February weekend when we were measuring, I shouldn't even say, they were measuring desks 3 and 4 and 5 times from a Thursday through a Sunday, just in order for us to get to where we needed to be. So I appreciate the kind words, I really do, but it was us. It was a community that got us to where we are today. So thank you very much. And I will take you up on the golf, skiing, and the movies. So we're there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
All
that
right.
too.
With that, we will move on to item 5.2, the RSEA report. Ms. Fork?
So I just want to say from the teachers, Jess, congratulations on retiring and congratulations on John taking over. It gets to work with me personally. I like how you guys are all laughing. That makes me wonder. And then I just also want to say I'm so glad it's summer. I am so happy to have that finally. I'm trying to get in that mode. It takes a couple weeks to unwind, but next my meeting I will not be here because I'm camping. So that's all I have to say. I know, right? I'll be at my Kircher in Fort Bragg if you want me. So Nat, have a good night, and Jess, congratulations. We will miss you.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That was short. Item 5.3, disclosure of surplus property requests for proposals received. And this would be,
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. Ms. McGee is here. Lauren is here if we have any follow-up questions. But basically, we are required to disclose that we received a offer on the Industrial Avenue property. It is in the exhibit from Ridge. Oh, I know it's here somewhere. We can act on it at a later time, but we are obligated to publicly disclose that we've received one offer on the Industrial Avenue property.
okay, board members, any questions? Open it up to the public for questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5.4, English Learner Master Plan Update and Report. And
We are going to bring Miss Saldana into, she's in the green room right now. So we're going to bring her in.
is this going to be right here?
Yes.
You have the slide deck in front of you as well, and it's also as in board docs.
There we go. Good afternoon, everyone, board members, cabinet. I'm Juanita Saldaña. I am the coordinator of EL and intervention programs for the school district. And today I have with me Val Buckingham, who is the director of
Humanities and curriculum and instruction.
There you go. Sorry, I always forget. Well, today we're going to do a really quick EL master plan update for you all. We just want to highlight a couple items that are that's happening this year with our EL students, and some things that we're moving towards for next year. Slide 2. This is our agenda for today. We're just again recapping who our EL students are within our district, some professional development that we'll be moving into next year. Something new that we are doing for our newcomer EL students. We're also going to cover a little bit of family engagement and what our reclassification numbers for our EL students look like this year, and just give you an update on the sale by literacy and how many students we had qualifying this year. So to start off, so this school year, as you know, was a little bit different than other school years. We started off our school year in August with a total of 374 EL students within our district. In January, we were able to reclassify, which means that we had about 57 students reclassified as fluent English proficient speakers, which was great. But then at the end of the school year, we did end out with 317 students total still under EL classification, which is a higher number than we've had in the past. Usually in the past, we end our school year with about 200, 250 students. This year, we did have more students. And that's because of various factors. As you guys know, last year, we had to postpone any testing when COVID hit. So many of our students did not test. So therefore, we weren't able to use any testing results from the state to reclassify students, because that's one of the things that we need to reclassify students as they move forward. So we didn't have that. And then the other factor was many of our students were receiving low grades, and we also look at grades when we reclassify students. So many of our students stayed at home during COVID, and they were struggling. So that resulted in low numbers in our reclassification numbers, and again, resulting in high numbers at the end of the school year for English learners. But with that, I also want to share with you some predictions for next school year. Um, uh, we will be starting off the school year in August with about 440 students. That's 317 that we have right now. And we have about 123 that are incoming ninth graders from our feeder district, the partner schools. Every year at the beginning of the school year, we have about 50 or 60 of them that come in from another country, from another state. And that's just based on data that we've had in the past couple of years. Um, we are potentially looking at about 500 EL students next school year, which is a big number for our school district. We usually average at about 300, 350. Next school year, we will have our biggest number of English learners within our district. So I did want to share that information with you. For slide 3, 4, I'll let Val take over. Mhm.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to give the board a brief update on where we are with professional development for teachers of English learners. So this was in part because we know it's good for all students, but in full transparency, we also had a finding on a previous FPM from the state. And because of that, we had all of our faculty, including administrators, participate kind of in a review ELD course, kind of an ELD 101. And it was, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, all that stuff. And I'm happy to report, I think we had probably 99% of the teachers go through it. So that's pretty great out of, all over 500 teachers that we have. In addition to that, Juanita was spearheaded the creation of the class. We had some suggestions from our auditor from the state that were several hours long, and we figured our teachers really needed to kind of get to the nitty gritty and how this applies to their content area, whether it be CTE or math or science. And so we created something that we felt was more relevant. And then the how, each principal decided how their staff was going to go through that really brief training. I think it was an hour to an hour and a half. So some principals, I think it was Roseville, for example, had part of their faculty meeting saying, "Hey, everybody get out your Chromebooks and you're going to go through the ELD review class." Other principals asked their teachers to do it at home, and then some principals suggested that their teachers do it during the PLT time. So moving on to the next slide. So that was our first part. Our second part of our professional development plan was that we had over 30 teachers, counselors, and administrators go through a training at Sac County Office of Ed. It's called EL Rise, and I'm going to try by memory, remember what the RISE means. It's, okay, I got to cheat because I'm nervous. The EL Roadmap for Implementation for Systemic Excellence. And so it's really getting these educators in the room, giving them the resources that they need to kind of evaluate where their program is at, where their practices are for serving English learners, and helping them decide what it is they need to move forward to better support their students. And it's really looking at it through the lens of equity and shared responsibility of supporting our English learners. And then the third part, going on to the next slide, which I like to call part 2B, is as we move forward into next school year, we're really focusing on integrated ELD. And so what that means is back in the day when I was a new teacher here almost 30 years ago, we had our English language development class. And so I was responsible for providing language development to my students, as were the maybe one or two other ELD teachers across the district. Since then, things have changed, and we now know that it's all teachers' responsibility to provide language development to students. So it's just not one period a day, it's throughout the day. All those teachers need to be providing some kind of language development that's kind of intertwined with their content area. And so what we've done, Juanita and I have led this last spring cohorts from each site. I'm really proud to say we have 30, 35 people, and these teams have been amazing. And if Juanita, you want to click, I don't know if you can reach it where it says EL Rise team. And so We've met several times as cohort this year. We've reflected on the learning that the folks have taken from the RISE training. We've looked at data, including older CAFS data, LPAC data, grades, things like that. We've discussed research-based practices. And then each team has decided, which strategies they're going to adopt at their school site based on what they see through those evaluations and what they've learned at the trainings that they're going to get the most bang for their buck as far as language development. So there might be one site, and sorry, so those are the team members, our dream team. There might be one site that says, well, we're going to focus on sentence starters or sentence stems, which is just providing some scaffolded support for the students. There might be another site that says we really want to focus on the structured collaborative discussion that students are going to have. So these are kind of the big ticket items that the sites are focusing on. And that's our next step for the fall. Each site will meet again and they'll decide what is our first step for helping our teachers expand on these practices. So they're not only providing and helping the students go deeper with their content area learning, but they're also helping develop their language development. So I'm going to turn it back over to Juanita. Do you want me to do that?
Okay, and so moving on with the newcomers, the other outcome from the EL Rise was that we did have a group of teachers and counselors that attended training that revolved around best supports for newcomers. Right now, we really don't have a true practice in place. A student comes to us, we enroll them in the class, and as they're with us and through the months, things start to pop up, and that's when we start doing some interventions with the students. Usually it'll take a couple months before we really try to figure out what's going on. So in order to avoid doing that, one of the things that we kind of picked up from the newcomer trainings were that creating a more wraparound support system for the students. So what we're going to start doing at the beginning of the school year, as students start enrolling with us, we created a document that's called the newcomer form, where the register is going to start with the initial registration, and then they're going to refer the student to the counselor like they currently do the schedule, do the whole enrollment process. But then after that, the counselor is going to refer the student, the family, to the family liaison on campus and to the wellness center so they can start doing intake with them and start speaking to the students so they can gather more information what their necessities are. We could start referring them to community agencies, family counseling, help them with the free and reduced lunch forms, transportation, all that kind of stuff. So that way, from the very beginning, within the first 5 days of enrollment on campus, there we have contact people to help them support and put things in place for the students. The other thing that we want to also start doing, we haven't started, we just started doing some research around this, but we want to create a primary language assessment for students. The purpose of this is that we want to assess the students in their native language. So we want to know if they're biliterate. We want to know, not biliterate. We want to know if they're literate. We want to know what kind of math skills they come with, what kind of reading, writing skills they come with from their home country. That information can really help us and guide us, and as far as like what kind of gaps we need to fill for the students in their native language as well. So those are a couple of things that we're going to be working on to support our newcomer students. Couple of other things that we're looking at or we're going to continue doing. This summer, we do have teachers and counselors and support staff going out to do home visits, not only for our EL students, but also some of our other struggling students that just need the extra support from us. Maybe some students that we just want to reconnect with, just to see what kind of supports we can offer the families as they go into the summer and come back in the fall. So we are continuing to do home visits. Our family and community engagement liaisons are working on a series of workshops for our EL families. This year, upcoming year, we're deciding that we want to focus on more on SEL for the family. So we're going to be doing a lot of SEL lessons with the parents, showing them, talking to them, explaining to them what SEL is, so they can also work with their students as they start to transition back into school next school year. And then finally, we are hiring more translators and interpreters. So as you saw, our EL numbers are rising, and the languages they're speaking that number is also rising. So, for example, we just hired recently Vietnamese interpreter, which is the first one that we've had in our district. Mostly we have Spanish, Russian, Ukrainian speakers, but now we're looking to expand that field as well. Okay. And then finally, I want to give you just some update information on the state sale by literacy for this school year. This year, we had the highest number of awarded sales. Yay for us. We had 478 sales. 5 of those students qualified for more than one seal, so they were trilingual students as well. And 124 students were former or current EL students. So up here you see the different languages that we awarded the seals in. And again, very proud of this as well. And then I'll open it for questions or comments.
Any questions, board members?
I have just a definition question, and it's more for the general public is, can you describe how the EL master plan came about and how that was developed and how you knew what targets?
Yeah. So the state does require us to have a document that states how we, what kind of services we provide for students, from enrollment, what happens during enrollment, what kind of curriculum we offer, instruction that we offer, any supports that we offer for EL students and their families. So that's how the document came about. So a lot of times when people have questions about what kind of, again, curriculum, I'll just use as an example, what kind of curriculum we use in our district, they can refer back to that document. The professional development that we mentioned just got added to the document. That's why I'm bringing it up for review, because that is a little bit something different than we've done in the past. So if someone wants to look up how Roseway Joint is providing professional development to teachers, they can look up at the document, and we can explain to them in that document how we're doing that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item 5.5 is a Wellness Center update presentation.
We will retrieve them from the green room. And
Okay.
that'll be
Yes, we're ready, I think.
Thanks. Thanks for having us. Oh, thank you. We always appreciate this time to come talk about wellness, and just to really to reflect on the year that we've had, and where we've been. And for the new board members, we want to just take a little journey back to bring you up to speed. Excuse me. I think we ran in here. And then we're going to talk about our data from this year, things that we're looking forward to, and areas where we want to grow. So when we started wellness 3 years ago, we started with our foundation, and we've used this metaphor for the last 3 years of building a house. So the first year, we really took time to build our infrastructure, to lay our foundation, to really look at our collaborative group, our counselors, special ed, our nurses and our administrators, to really look at getting our systems and our processes in place. And we did that year one. Year two, we worked on really developing our framework, our infrastructure. By year two, we had 20 to 25 interns with us. We were collaborating with 3 or 4 colleges, universities, to help support our wellness program. In year two, we also were able to hire MHAs, mental health associates, at all of our sites to help support the wellness centers. And then we hit the end of year two, and for everybody, it was a roller coaster. And it was a roller coaster for us as well. But we really looked at, as we went on this ride at the end of year two and beginning of year three, what opportunities were presenting to us. And there were some opportunities, and I think we fared pretty well during the COVID outbreak. And Chris or Sabrina will talk about the data that we have. But in year three, we really, we put Tyvek around our house. We got a roof going. We're not done yet because we know it takes 3 to 5 years for any program implementation. But we really feel like we're in a good place. with our program. It's pretty solid. It's a program that's we think is solid enough, and even though it's not done, it's we've had people come and look. At least a half a dozen school districts have wanted to come tour the program to see what's going on. We've had parents from other school districts reach out to see how we did wellness and how wellness could happen at their schools. And so we feel like we've done a really good job over the last 3 years in really developing and putting together our program, and really doing it with sustainability, not rushing into it, really taking our time. And so this reflection we've done this last 3 years is really around helping us develop insights and how do we do it better. And so one of the ways that we do that is to definitely look at our data, and that's going to drive the things that we do. That and the voice of the kids, and parents and our school staff. And so with that, I'll ask Sabrina to come up and talk about the data.
Thank you so much. My name is Sabrina Vella, and I am going to be taking you through a little bit of our highlights from our referrals and our data from our referrals and where we received these referrals this year. I'm also going to talk a little bit about what has happened after we received referrals, what services that students receive, and the MTSS framework in which we provide services and deliver all of our services through our Wellness Center with. This school year, throughout the entire district, we've served 935 students, have received referrals directly to wellness services this school year. In 2018 and 2019, there was about 625 students that were referred to wellness. Last school year, it was 931, so we're roughly about the same as last year. We really needed to pivot this year, though, because of COVID and the impact that COVID had on our families and our students last school year, and really wanting to be intentional on the mental health services that they were receiving. And so we were able to open up direct referrals to services to families and students to self-refer. Prior to that, we were only allowing referrals to funnel through our school counselors. And so because of opening up the referrals to students and families to refer directly, we were really able to hit and target the same number of students that we served last school year. There is a handout that you guys also received on the agenda from today with a lot of details of the specific numbers from our numbers from the last 3 years as well as this year. On page 2, there's a breakdown that's specific to where the source of the referral came from, whether it be from staff, student, or families, and what those referrals look like. And then on page 3, you can find details surrounding what the past 3 years have looked like and comparing the 3 years all together. Year after year, we're noticing 3 high trends with regards to anxiety, depression, and family dynamics impacting students' well-being in the schools. So we're continuing to use this data to identify tier 1s and tier 2 supports that we're offering to students and families to deliver data-driven interventions and resources to students and families. The other piece that really sticks out with the data this year was the referrals that we received from students and families. Self-esteem and relationship were significantly higher than referrals that were being submitted by staff at each of the school sites. And so we want to be really intentional thinking about next year how we can target those referrals and those needs for students and families, and how to deliver tier 1 and tier 2 interventions for those needs that were coming up. We wanted to look at who we were serving. And again, in the data report that you guys have, there's a lot more details with regards to a 504 plan, students with IEPs, students that are identified under EL, and the percentage of those students that we're serving in our wellness program. But this was a piece of data that stuck out when we were doing our end of the year data reflection, was the number of males that we were serving throughout the district. Families were roughly submitting services for males and females at equal rates, but we were seeing far less referrals for males when students were submitting the referrals, as well as when staff were submitting the referrals. So we want to be really intentional in our intervention response teams and talk about how we can have more equitable services and address these inequities that are happening throughout the district. The other piece is we want to know who's receiving services at what grade level. You can see that the ninth graders for the student referrals and the family referrals are much higher than the other grades. And that is particularly important because we delivered tier 1 interventions and supports to our ninth graders. And so our referrals are going to reflect that they've heard us, they've seen our presentation, they know that we're there. And so we're seeing higher rates of referrals for the services because they know that we're there. I'm really proud of the staff referrals really equaling out this school year. In year 1, we had, if you just looked at the 12th graders, year 1, we had 17% of the 12th graders were referred to services. Year 2, it went up a little bit to 19%. And this year, we brought it all the way up to 24%. So the referrals from staff were pretty equal throughout each of the grade levels that we were serving this year. And just to frame kind of the different tiers of interventions that we are providing to students at each of the school levels. When I talk about tier 1, I'm talking about classroom presentations and also awareness months that are taking place at each of the school sites. Tier 2 are students that we're pulling out from class time and doing really targeted, specific group interventions. We really try and be data-driven. So a lot of our tier 2 small groups have focused on anxiety and depression, what we saw the highest rates of referrals, and being really intentional on those skills-based groups that we're providing. And then tier 3 is much more intensive one-on-one individual therapy type of work. Last school year, we were doing some classroom presentations, but we weren't necessarily all documented in the same and recording it the same and doing that at the same level. So we were really intentional of gathering that data this school year. And we've done 530 presentations throughout this school year with a total of 426 hours in the classroom, providing socio-emotional learning to students in the classroom, which we're really proud of. We want to really focus on that number for next year and seeing if we can increase that, as well as our targeted tier 2 groups. Talked a little bit about our anxiety and depression numbers earlier being really high. We selected a cognitive behavioral intervention specifically for anxiety and depression, and we're able to provide that at some of the schools. But we want to see that number of small groups really increase next year. So you're going to see a lot more advertisement and a lot more services being offered to students to do some of that preventative work. This year, because of COVID, students didn't feel necessarily safe doing a lot of virtual groups on Zoom. And so we did see a small decrease in the students that did receive tier 2 group services. At the end of our year data reflection with the mental health associates at each of the school sites, they all identified that as a focus area for next year. But the case management one is really interesting because that more than tripled this year. Case management is a little bit new in wellness services in this school district. And it looks a little bit different than how you normally would call case management, maybe in special education. It's kind of a catch-all for students that might have individual services outside of school, but maybe you're doing a release of information and collaborating and talking with the outside therapist to help them meet their therapeutic goals. Or maybe they already have individual services, so you're tacking on attendance supports and interventions and helping get them connected to resources in the community and giving them referrals to healthcare, food, anything like that. We also initiated a new service this year, which was all referrals that were submitted received a triage so that we could clinically look out holistically the needs of the student, not only at school, but in their family, their social, emotional needs, behavioral needs, and be really intentional on the services that we were linking them with and providing services through the Wellness Center. Over to the right there, you will see that our referrals for our services that we provided that were specific to vaping, substance use, and suicide risk support plans have decreased this year. And I don't think that's because those things don't exist, but I think that they just weren't on our campuses, and we weren't aware that those things were happening. Overall, we've had a 63% increase in services, but the number of students have stayed the same, which means often the students that are receiving services through wellness are being linked with 2 or 3 different services at one time, so that we're meeting the needs of the students. And it's not a cookie cutter approach. We're really kind of meeting students and families where they're at and being able to provide those mental health services for them. So using MTSS as a framework, kind of our 3 areas that we're looking at focusing on for next school year with data is focusing on our tier 1 interventions, so our classroom interventions and our whole school interventions. Christina's going to talk a little bit about our universal screening process potentially for next year, and using that data intentionally to provide tier 1 and tier 2 interventions from that data. Increasing tier 2 groups and skills-based groups to students throughout the district, as well as monitoring and assessing the need for suicide support that's needed for students, substance use, tobacco, and prevention efforts at each of the school sites. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Christina.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Christina Dobon-Claveau. I'm the 3rd Wellness and Prevention Coordinator of the team. And so what I'm going to cover tonight are some of the happenings and some of the highlights that happened with us programmatically that have served our students, but also our program as well. So I'm going to start off with, we piloted a universal screener at Adelante Independence and with all 9th graders at Wood Creek this year. This was a 1.5-year journey of us really looking at different assessments like this. There's a ton of them out there. We got it down to about 100 of them, and this was a multidisciplinary team that looked at these screeners. We got it down to a strengths-based screener that was normed and validated in the state of California to similar schools in ours. And we landed on Co-Vitality, which is a universal screener out of UC Santa Barbara. It's a web-based assessment that takes about 15 minutes, about 32 questions to administer. And of the students that we screened, it gave us a really accurate picture of their needs. I'll give you an example. If any of you know Denise Burns, you know Denise Burns at Independence knows every single one of her students, not just them, but their stories. And when we administered the universal screener at Independence back in September, Ross and myself and Denise and Edgar looked at the top 15 kids with the highest risk factors. And we looked at the first half and we said, okay, those are kids we know, those are kids that are on our radar. And then there were 7 more kids on there where Denise said, without this tool, I would have never known this. So that validated for us that this was the right tool to use. On an MTSS level for us, the screener provides you school-wide school climate information. It gives you interventions, not just for school-wide, but for classrooms and individual interventions as well. And so we look forward to administering this universal screener to all of our 9th graders next school year. We adopted CliniTrack as a program. For us as coordinators, we oversee upwards of a dozen, if not more, staff at our school sites, and we can't be in one place at once. And so it gives us clinical oversight to support our interns and our associates with the work and their documentation that they're doing. It's a digital documentation platform, which reduces the need of files and storage, which we know space on a high school campus is very precious. And so we needed to find an alternate to hanging on to paper files for years and years on end. And it also is going to set us up to look at data in a more thorough format when it comes to our individual and group mental health services. So we look forward to year 2 really diving into that piece. DBT in schools. Our wellness associate, Sam Halford, effectively completed an elective course co-taught between her and a teacher. She talked about this at a board meeting a few months back. And she taught it both semesters. She'll continue to do it next year due to the high demand of students. DBT in schools is an explicit SEL curriculum that weaves in yoga and mindfulness. She spent 9,000 minutes in classrooms this year offering wellness services. And she co-taught 172 classes, which is incredible. So thank you to Adelante to continue to supporting this. We're really excited about it. So we also know that the wellness services are not cheap, and so we need to find ways to keep us sustainable. And so we each have our own strengths in hustling money out there. Sabrina got us 2 pretty extensive grants, substantial grants, so that we can stipend our interns and have the best quality interns and give them a great experience. And also it will fund our professional development as a program next year. Craig is really good at the state and federal grants and got us tobacco use prevention grants. So we have one out there right now that is $190,000 for 3 years. And most recently, we got a tier 2 TUPE grant for $165,000 for 3 years that is going to make sure we can pay the salaries of our family and community engagement liaisons, engagement activities for students, and stipends for our TUPE club advisors on each of our campuses. We also were awarded again the McKinney-Vento grant. That's $50,000 for 3 years. And that supports with some salaries as well as basic needs for our homeless students. I'm good at the little ones. So I got us some money from Rayleigh's again to make sure we have snacks and tea in our wellness centers. And our students find that very, very important. And this year is really cool. We collaborated with Arts Council of Placer County, and they gave us $1,000 for materials for us to do some training around art in therapy, because we know that's another way our students can express themselves. And we were able to buy supplies through that grant. So we also wanted to share just some feedback we got from students this year. All of our students that complete services with us fill out a survey. And so here's just some things our students have said when we asked the question, do you have any suggestions on how to improve wellness centers, services, or any other feedback? One student said, no, but I really liked Emily, and she's really nice and helpful. She overall does a great job. Emily is our MHA over at Granite Bay. We felt like this was really great constructive feedback. Try to hire male workers. I know a lot of male identifying students at wellness that aren't comfortable with the lack of male workers. So students recognize that as a need for us as well. And lastly, I just wanted to say that Ms. Tanda was so supportive and helped me with trying out many different coping mechanisms and very understanding. And I wanted to make sure that she was recognized for that. We are an internship development program as well. And for many, that's not super popular because our interns are only with us 1 year. But this just comes, this shows you how much of an impact they make. And this intern is also related to one of our amazing administrators in the district. So what's happening ahead for us? We know that, like Sabrina said, we need to work on our gender inequities. We need to continue to grow our tier 1 supports for all students. And for us, this last part is weighing really heavy on us. We have a lot of students that have not stepped foot on a school campus since March 13th of 2020. And how do we offer them safe spaces where they can process how they're feeling, where they can adjust, and they can transition back to school in the best way possible? We don't know what their stories have been. We don't know what their journeys have been these last year and a half. So how do we do that in a way where they can really know that they can access us for supports? So we're still working on that. I want to thank the board. I want to thank cabinet. I want to thank our principals, our counselors, and assistant principals for always being willing to collaborate with us. This is year 3, and it has been quite the journey. I want to single out Jess. Thank you for all your support. And we still curse you a little bit because of that meeting in January of 2018 where you said all schools need wellness centers when we asked for 2.
We wanted to find out
2.
We said, let's do all 5.
7.
And here we are. Here we are. So we just want to show everybody immense gratitude. Like you saw, we've come a long way, but we still have a lot to go. And we're just, the 3 of us, looking forward to breathing, taking some time away from each other because we spend too much time together, and just really are looking forward to the next school year. So thank you. Are there any questions? Sorry, I was going to run away before.
I just
too. Thank you for this presentation. I'm always really interested in this, and I think the services are going to continue to just grow significantly, unfortunately. But to have a good foundation is so important. So thank you for the work that you guys do. I was just looking at the numbers, and I saw that I was looking at the number of students versus the number of services versus the number of referrals. Is the number of referrals the same as the number of students served?
No, so there's a duplicated and an unduplicated number on the handout with all the specifics that you were given. And so there's many more referrals than there were students, because sometimes there's 2 or 3 referrals. So a student might submit a self-referral and a staff might submit a self-referral. So I tried to extract the double counted. So the raw number is 935 students that were received a referral, at least one. So that number's not double counted.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
And then some more numbers. So the number of services. So there's some students that require more than one service.
Yes.
Was there a trend or a combination that you saw as most likely the 1 or 2 or 2 or 3 that accompanied each other? Meaning that maybe it was like substance use and depression. Like, I'm trying to pick
Individual case management. maybe.
Yeah, no, I didn't pull that number specifically. And in all transparency, I crunched these numbers by myself with my calculator on my iPhone. So if you see any discrepancies, that's the reason why.
But one comment that I can say about the services, though, is like if we're following a multi-tiered system of support model really well, and we have a student that has high levels of trauma or high needs, and we put them in individual services right away, if they complete their 8 to 10 sessions and they're doing really well, then we hook them up with group services, which are less intense, and in group settings. And so oftentimes, if we're moving through our tiers of support, that's what we're doing. But that's definitely a trend that we should be looking at, is what are the combinations of services that are happening. But because what I can say is, at least at my 2 of my sites at Oakmont at Roseville, a lot of what we were doing was providing mental health services, but then supporting families with basic needs. We ran a lot of food boxes out to homes. We did a lot of porch visits and brought bus passes or clothing vouchers. And so that was a lot of what we saw this year.
When you're talking about the services, then if a student was in tier 1 and got the tier 1 services and then tier 2 services, does it show as 2? Like it counts as 2, or does it count as one of the 1900?
Those will be double counted. So numbers of those are all seen separately in each of the tiers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I have one more question. I can't remember. Oh, in your assessments, are you doing ACEs assessments?
That is something that we actually are looking at for next year. Juanita mentioned a little bit about, an intake process with our EL students and immigrant students. We want to give them a trauma screener that we use. But if our clinicians or our associates or interns feel that further assessment is needed around trauma, we do have screeners that we use. We just don't use them systemically all the time.
We do ask very specific questions about trauma and their trauma experiences within our biopsychosocial assessments for tier 1 services that we're providing. And so they also are all going to be receiving training next school year with regards to trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy, to being able to identify how to ask nuances of questions with trauma, as well as how to screen and identify intervention that's evidence-based intervention for those needs that are coming up.
Okay. I just have one more question. Sorry. What your intern ratio, or how many interns per site do you have?
For us, it all depends on the need of the sites. And also what the pool looks like year to year. And so for this next year, we do have a significantly lower number of social work interns because of Sac State and some of their programming that's happening in this next year. So yeah, it all kind of depends.
Okay.
Also, there's a space issue sometimes. We can only have so many there because there's only confidential spaces for them to access.
Right.
And so space becomes an issue at the sites.
And it's dependent on probably the license, however many carry the license at each site. My guess is for the number of interns.
But roughly about 2 to 4 interns at each of the school sites. The comp sites have 3 or 4, and the alt sites usually have about 2 or 3.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
I just had a quick question. One, this is really great. Thank you. And I feel like, Jess, you were very fortuitous in 2020 to know that all need this for 2020. So I feel like it was really good timing. So can you just say, you said this, I just want to make sure that I heard right. So every incoming 9th grader at every school gets like this tier 1, like a classroom presentation where you come and so every kid knows that it's there. But let's say I'm a 10th grader and I'm new to the school. Is there a way that they get in on this? Because I just think it's really great. I just wonder what that looks like.
Our counselors do a phenomenal job of when they enroll new students, assessing what their needs are. And oftentimes we get, impromptu tours over to the wellness center so that those new students can meet us.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Christina, Craig, and Sabrina. As always, I love these presentations, and I've been fortunate to see this grow over the time I've been on the board to really a robust outward organization that is helping students. And I just think you're doing great work out there. The feedback I know we get from principals from time to time is very supportive. I'm assuming that's still the case as I look around. That's what's nice. I can see the principals nodding now. So really appreciate your work. And nice job with the grant funding as well. Just the two of you are working on that. How's that process working? Are you always looking for more grants, or do you have time to, how much of that is
We are
throughout your day?
always looking for grants. We had a grant, was it last year or the year before, with Adventist Health?
Our first year to buy furniture. Yeah, we have no shame in hustling money wherever we can.
I like it. Yeah, great.
And so we also have a lot of relationships with a lot of other schools and agencies and organizations. And so if we hear that, oh, I got this grant from so-and-so, Christina's really good at looking it up really fast and being like, what's available, what's out there, and building those relationships with community members and organizations to help with that sustainability. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Public hearing.
Yes, so in regards to the public hearing, staff is recommending we pull both items 6.1 and 6.2 for June 22nd, the regularly scheduled board meeting on that date. But we do have to follow that up with a special meeting to approve the plan and the budget, and we're suggesting, and that must be done by July 1. So we're looking at June 29th.
29th. That works for board members. A regularly scheduled meeting the 22nd, and then a special board meeting. 22nd would be for public hearing. The 29th would be to approve the LCAP. 6 o'clock start. That works. Okay.
Thank you.
That works. I'll wait to. All right, we'll move on to action matters. Items in most of these action matters. Yes.
Sorry. On the noticing for the meetings, it was mentioned during public comment about perhaps providing links. Is that possible? We can send out another communication and ensure we get those links.
That is in the works, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we have these action items will come to us, be presented by our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Brad Basham. I start with item 7.1, which is the approval of Executive Director, Student Engagement.
This is probably the best part of my job when we get to hire great people. So I'm going to bring 4 new hires to us this evening, and they're all here in the audience. So you get to meet them firsthand as well. So I would like to start with approval of the appointment of the Executive Director of Student Engagement. Staff recommends hiring Dr. Melanie Dobson as Executive Director of Student Engagement. She's back here in the corner. So everyone can see who she is. Dr. Dobson has 24 years of experience in education, including service as a science teacher, vice principal, principal, and director of secondary education in the Elk Grove Unified School District. As director of secondary education, Dr. Dobson has led professional learning for principals and vice principals, including sessions focused on high quality instruction, decision making, PBIS, investigations, and restorative practices. Dr. Dobson is recognized for her collaborative leadership, maintaining high levels of accountability, providing transparent and honest communication, and building trusting and respectful relationships. Staff recommends the board approve Dr. Melanie Dobson for the position of Executive Director, Student Engagement, effective July 1st, 2021.
Board members, any questions?
No, but I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, anybody from, open it up to public for comment? Seeing none, got a motion by Mr. Constant,
Second.
second by Ms. Hall. Barbara, will you take the roll?
No roll is required when all the board members are.
Oh, we're just one motion, that's right. All right, we have a motion, I'm rusty on, I'm supposed to say this, right?
Keep going, you're
All
good.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion passes 4-0.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, item 7.2, approval of Executive Director Learning Support Service.
Yes, staff recommends appointing Miss Jennifer Layton to the position of Executive Director, Learning Support Services. Miss Layton has 35 years of experience in education, including 23 as a highly respected English language arts teacher, as well as a decorated choral teacher, 5 years as an assistant principal, and the last 7 years as a creative and caring and inspirational principal of Granite Bay High School. Miss Layton began her career at Oakmont High School, but has also played an integral role in building the culture, as well as starting new traditions at both Granite Bay and Antelope High Schools when they first opened. Ms. Layton is recognized as a servant leader, one who is committed to excellence, has a passion for learning, and is a champion for equity, inclusion, and social emotional wellness for all students. Staff recommends the board approve Ms. Jennifer Layton for the position of Executive Director, Learning Support Services, effective July 1st, 2021.
Board members, questions? Open it up to the public for comment. Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Constant, a second by Ms. Hall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Congratulations. Item 7.3, approval of principal of Granite Bay High School.
Yes, staff recommends hiring Miss Amber Clark, who is sitting right here in the front, wearing green appropriately. For the principal of Granite Bay High School, Ms. Clark has 21 years of experience in education, including serving 16 years as a special education teacher. She has also served as an AVID teacher, credit recovery teacher, Link Group advisor, advocacy coordinator, and as coach of varsity track, cross country, and basketball. Most recently, Ms. Clark has served as vice principal at both Pleasant Grove and Florin High Schools in the Elk Grove Unified School District, where she has shined as an instructional leader, facilitating the implementation of culturally responsive teaching, multi-tiered systems of support, that was the MTSS that you heard a lot about in the last presentation, restorative practices, while also increasing family and community engagement. Ms. Clark is known as a dynamic school leader who sees the larger picture, is a fierce advocate for students, and is willing to be courageous in her actions. Staff recommends board approval of Ms. Amber Clark for the position of principal of Granite Bay High School effective July 1st.
Board members, any questions? Open it up to the public for comment. Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Constant,
Second.
second by Ms. Hall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Item 7.4, approval of principal at Oakmont High School.
Yes, I get to introduce Dr. Isabel Gouveia. sitting right here in the front, staff recommends the approval of Dr. Gouveia as principal of Oakmont High School. Dr. Gouveia has 21 years of experience in education, including service as a mathematics teacher, department coordinator, new teacher induction coach, assistant principal, and principal in the Sacramento City Unified School District. In addition, she currently serves as an AXA leadership coach, where she mentors new administrators who are in the process of clearing their administrative credentials. Dr. Gouveia is known to be student-centered, being a student-centered instructional leader with a tremendous work ethic. I think they actually called her tenacious is the words that they used, who is committed to the community she serves and is always responsive to staff and student needs. Staff recommends board approval of Dr. Isabel Gouveia to the position of principal of Oakmont High School effective July 1st, 2021.
Board members, any questions? We'll open it up for the public for comment. Seeing none, do we have a motion? Motion approved. Motion by Mr. Constant.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 4-0. Welcome.
Go Vikings.
Yeah.
I said Ms. Clark. Welcome, Dr. Gouveia. Welcome, Ms. Clark. Congratulations, Ms. Layton, and congratulations. These are all
Dr.
new names.
Dobson.
Dr. Dobbs. Congratulations and welcome aboard to all of you. Item 7.5, Certificate of Need for Fully Qualified Educators.
Yes, the purpose of this item is to adopt what we call a declaration of need that allows the district to renew emergency CLAD or English learner authorization permits and limited assignment teaching permits for the 2021-22 school year. Staff is requesting 5 permits for EL authorization, emergency EL authorization, 6 limited assignment teaching permits, which we'll use for teachers who are being asked to teach physics who may have a credential in another science area as we make this transition to NGSS, provides them a little extra time to earn that authorization, as well as 1 emergency teacher librarian permit. We have a teacher who is in the process of completing that library science or library teacher librarian credential program, and she's been named the district librarian, one of our district librarians, so we need an emergency permit while she finishes that program this year. And then we're asking for 12 teacher intern permits. We have been able to find, I think, some outstanding new special education teachers, mainly those that have been in our paraprofessional roles, and they've gone into credential programs. So they're working with us on an intern permit, and they're in the program at PCOE, and it takes a couple of years. So we have to have these emergency permits for them while they're working as interns. So this is what we call a DON, or Declaration of Need, and the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing requires that the district that is seeking an emergency permit file a formal declaration of need that is approved by the local governing board before the commission will issue those permits. So staff is asking for approval from the board for the declaration of need for the 2021-22 school year, which is Exhibit A in your packet.
Board members, any questions? Open it up to the public for comment. Seeing none, bring it back for motions.
Well, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Constant,
No second.
second by Ms. Hirota. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. All right, item 8.1, pending agenda items. We definitely have, again, LCAP in 2 weeks, and then approval in 3 weeks. And then we're not due to have, I know one pending. We need to set our final dates for our board meetings. We had one board meeting, the July board meeting would actually come a week early on the 22nd.
Is that the Thursday?
It's on the Thursday, so it would be the 22nd, not the 29th, because that's the 4th Thursday. Are we in agreement to that?
Sure.
And then the meeting in November on the 11th is on holiday, Veterans Day. We need to move that to, I suppose, the 18th. Everyone's in agreement. That was the only pending Barbara, I think that's an agreement. So July 22nd and then November 18th. We're good.
So, oh, go ahead.
It's good, although I might miss the July meeting because of a vacation that's already planned, but I still haven't finalized it, but that's a possibility. But I would have missed the other meeting anyway, so.
Okay. And those will start at 7 o'clock, don't forget.
Starting on July
July 22nd meeting will
22nd,
start
starting
at
at
7.
7.
One of the pending agenda items that I had requested at the last board meeting was to do a RFP for our attorneys. And so where do we see that fitting in on this calendar?
I think we can certainly put that out. This is the perfect time to do it this summer. And I would agree, it's a time to revisit that. And unless other board members have an objection to that, I'm all in favor for that.
Any thoughts
So
on timing?
Have we checked the dates of the contracts and all that, or just to make sure that we're within the window time?
We don't have a standing contract with them. It's more of a mutual agreement of services for both F3 and Lozano.
Well, then there's no time like the present.
So can we sort of put that out there then as over this summer, to put that out, an RFP for attorney services?
Yeah, so maybe we weave it in somehow, because I know we've got district map stuff and, well, I don't know, we have a couple of things. So if we can try to swivel it in there, where it fits in an appropriate length agenda would be great.
Trustee districts for trustees will really, we're going to be having that first meeting in August, right? First public, as far as the schedule was, as far as was presented to us, we're looking at August and September. So that is coming up soon.
Yeah, I do think I think we need to have a discussion about how the RFP breakdown should be and what we're looking for, and then give some direction for those RFPs to be issued. So maybe we talk about that in early to mid-August, which gives staff after that, 30 to 60 days to work on an RFP to bring back to us for approval. We kind of get on that track of doing it. I think with the timing of how long it takes to sort of get through the process, will coincide nicely with the work on the districting stuff. They can kind of happen in tandem.
Fine, yeah. So you're proposing we do some kind of a workshop during a board meeting then about definition of needs?
Because as you know, yes, we have multiple attorneys kind of figuring out the need and scope and delineation of services on how they would be broken down and what we're looking for as a board.
You propose at that first meeting in August to have this discussion.
Yeah.
Have like a workshop kind of
Yeah.
information session / workshop around definition of need.
Right. So a discussion so we can inform what we'd like to see in the RFP, so we get some good guidance. And then I have
Was that the last? Did you have another one?
Nope, that was it.
So I know you guys know I love being a Viking family and my kids all go to Oakmont, but you also know I've been complaining about the drive for far too many years now, 6 years of driving cross country. I mean, cross city to get my kids to school, 12 and a half miles each way. And I'm not proposing that we completely jump into district boundaries, our school attendance boundaries. But I was reviewing the attendance map the other day, and there is a small little blue portion of attendance for Oakmont that is way out by where I live. And it's an area that is just starting to get developed. And it happens to sit with two sides of it at Wood Creek and two sides of it at Roseville and no sides of it at all with Oakmont. And I think it would be a complete disservice to the incoming families if we didn't have a discussion about how we could prevent them from burning through two cars like I did driving back and forth across town. So I'd like to have a very limited and focused discussion on how we deal with that one small neighborhood so that those families get to have their kids go to school with the kids that they live around.
Is that the Campus Oaks area that you're talking about?
Yes, the old HP area there.
When
Yeah.
would you like to have that discussion?
Sooner the better, because they're digging up holes and putting up walls. So the sooner the better. And I don't think it really is going to be a decision left or right, which school they're going to go to. But I think it's small enough. With the opening of West Park, I think we have the capacity to make sure those kids can go to a school that's convenient for their families. Not that I'm trying to keep anyone away from Oakmont, but I think it's something that we should talk about.
I think it's a
Definitely.
maybe. I think it is a maybe though, because when this came about on the agenda maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, both Wood Creek and Roseville were impacted, and that doesn't, anyway, I'm just saying maybe. But are you proposing that for the next school year, those students would attend Roseville or Wood Creek and not
I don't think there's
Oakmont?
any families there yet.
Oh,
They're just starting to dig the holes for the majority of the
no,
housing, I
there's
believe.
houses, there's people moved in.
There's a lot of.
There's people
Well,
moved in.
the way I looked at the map, it looks like some of those houses are already in one of the other schools. I don't think I'm not sure. That's why I think we really need to look at it.
I thought they were all Oakmont too. I thought that. whole
I think
area
it's
was
all
Oakmont.
Oakmont, but I
All the more reason we should have a full discussion on it, figure it out.
Okay. Any other, Ms. Hall?
No, I just thought that that was already coming this year. Am I incorrect on that? As far as redrawing the boundaries for
I
the
think
schools, or is that next year?
A couple of things, they were waiting for the census to happen, wait to
Right.
see how much West Park was impacted, how things shaked out. So we're looking more at next year to
Okay.
really tackle that.
This would just be a little mini breakout session. Is that? Okay.
Right, isn't it?
hang on, I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, and if it's possible, it may not be possible for us to jump it ahead of time. I just want us to have the discussion and make the exploration, because it is really, it's hard on families.
Those homes are moved into. There are homes there, and apartments
Definitely, yeah.
that are moved into. They're developed and moved into.
And there's a whole bunch more coming right there.
Oh, lots,
Yeah.
lots. I don't know how many families are there. That'd be interesting to know how many families are there.
The only other thing I still would like is where we meet going forward. We may not have a whole bunch of choices other than right here. I think it was good to get out of Roseville High School Theater and get back to some normalcy, but at some point we need to, I don't know if this will meet all of our needs, to meet in this kind of, in this room, in this environment.
I
Grand
kind of
scheme-
enjoy the coziness.
You do like the coziness, so just my 2 cents on it, at some point in the future. So with that, our next regularly scheduled meeting is Tuesday, June 22nd, again at 6 o'clock. That'll be our second to last meeting at 6 o'clock. And with that, board and staff comments. Mr. Basham?
Tonight was a little bittersweet for me. We get to hire 4 great people, so I'd like to say congratulations and welcome to Dr. Dobson and Dr. Gouveia and to Mrs. Clark, as well as to Layton for their appointments. So thank you guys and congratulations to you. But at the same time, this is the last board meeting with a colleague, a friend, a mentor for 25 years, and I just wish you all the very best. So thank you for all your help.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
I would say the same thing Brad said. Welcome to our new team members, and Jesus, it's been a pleasure, man.
Ms. Hall?
Well, hi, Jess. It was great getting to know you. Really, it's been great. And I'm excited to meet the new people coming on. So I'll be coming out to your campuses when school's back in August. And I hope everyone has a great summer.
Well, first I want to say how great it was going to the graduations this year and seeing another sense of normalcy. I mean, a little bit different than normal, but still more towards normal than we've been. Obviously great that I got to watch 2 of my kids graduate and all their friends, and that was wonderful. Going to the adult school graduation was a great experience. I'm glad that I was arm twisted to go there. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to going to the 100-year, which I know it's on my schedule this week because I'm getting all the reminders. Is it tomorrow? Okay, I will be there. With that, thank you for that. Welcome to all the new faces. I barely know all the faces we have since I'm new. I will call you by the wrong names, but I will call you. and looking forward to getting to know you better. And Jess, we'll have more time to chat before you go, but happy trails.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for everything that you've done this year, and welcome to the new folks that are joining us. Look forward to working with you. And the graduations were fantastic. Thank you for making it happen. It was so amazing, and I didn't have kids of my own in it, but I did cry because it was great to see and to know that parents were, looking forward to this moment. Last year was a little different, so this year parents really embraced the fact that they got to see their children walk on stage and get a diploma. So thank you for making that happen. Jess, congratulations. Good luck. Enjoy your trips down the river. I didn't hear the river mentioned, but I know that's something you do.
Yes.
And, thank you for this year. Oh, I'm welcome.
Well, I want to welcome all the newcomers as well. Welcome to our district. I think you'll find this a great place to work, and our culture is one that I think has been developed over years, and we look forward to you being part of that to continue onwards. And likewise, and congratulations, Jennifer, on the new position. And I know you'll do great at it, and we appreciate all your efforts. I also, Julie and I got to do Roseville High School graduation. That was the one I had not done yet since being here. And Principal Richter, excellent job there, and your staff. And fun to see the kids coming on stage and handing out diplomas. And almost forgot how to do that. It was sort of an awkward turn a little bit, but Jess and I, we handled our side, and you and Julie we got it through an hour and, what was it, an hour and 20 minutes?
Hour and 25 minutes.
25 minutes, so nice job. And adult school, I love the adults. You guys do such a great job, and I love doing that each year. And he made me do all the work on Saturday morning, but that's all right. So, but just a great experience. And independence, Ross, very nice job with independence. I get a chance to the graduation there. I think you should keep doing it out in the field every year, and likewise outside at Oakmont is much better than in the theater. So great job on the graduations, a lot of fun. One of the great parts about the job. And Jess, thank you again for everything. And again, it's been a memorable experience, exhausting at times. My wife said I'm completely gray now. I don't quite think I'm totally gray yet, but you did, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. And thank you for all your service all these years at the district. You have the last.
Oh, thank you. Everything's been said. So ditto everything regarding the graduations, the welcomes, just tremendous excitement coming. And I'll wish you this. I wish you peace and joy this summer. I think what we've all experienced, and I'm so glad Wellness presented tonight, is everyone in our community, everyone in this country, for the world has experienced some level of trauma. Disruption in our lives, and we need to recognize that. And I really wish you truly in the next couple of months peace and joy, because there's still a lot of work to do. And think of it like a storm that went through. We've just come out of the storm, but there's a lot of rebuilding to do, and it's for our kids, it's for our communities, and I truly cannot wish you enough peace and joy this summer, so you come back refreshed and ready to go. Thank you.
With that, we are adjourned for the day. Thank you.
Congratulations.